This is one of the little jobs that I've been doing. I had to come up with a method of changing gear. So I had to come up with a way of moving the rods forwards and backs and twisting. So this is the design I've come up with. Initially I've done it as a 3D print just to prove it got all the right movements. And then I'll transpose those drawings so that I can actually machine them on my CNC milling machine. It's quite a simple system. I've used it before on my racing cars. We've got, in the GT40's case, it's going to be, that's reverse, that would be first, second, third, fourth and fifth. At the moment I've shown a gate on the top, which I'll probably do away with. I've already taken measurements off the gearbox to work out how far it's got to move backwards and forwards and the angle it has to rotate. So I've taken care of that. So just got to now machine it out of aluminium and see if it all works. When I come to install it in GT40, these two rose joints will be actually connected into the chassis. So I've got to weld some plates into the chassis to screw those into, and they'll be a bit further wider apart. This bottom linkage here will be about twice the length. This is because as it is now, if you hold that steady so it can't move backwards and forwards and rotate sort of around the neutral position, you'll get a sort of an arc. So the further that's away, the less the arc there'll be. It's all straightforward, just made out of 10mm blocks of aluminium with a shoulder bolt going through and some 10mm bearings in the arm and threaded into the back. So the green and blue will be aluminium, the orange will be aluminium. The yellow will be a 3mm steel plate with some CDS tube welded in, 1/2 inch CDS tube welded into each end and then screwed on the end. So that's it. And that is the final gear stick assembly, now machined, CNC machined out of aluminium. I'll go into a bit more detail in a moment how it all works, but that's its position. That then feeds through a rod. That's where it's pinned so I can get it in the right position. It then goes through a large rod end, and then the other side is where the universal joint is. It then zooms off to the back, which I'll now go to, and this is where it, bring into focus, this is where it comes in to the gearbox through another universal, and then I've added a rod end joint there to support it and feeds into the selector in the back of the gearbox. Obviously this bracket's got to be painted up, and I would trim off the top of the rose joint there. Right, so that all went in all right, but we then had a few problems which I will now show you. Right, so there we have our gear stick, and we've got our neutral position, but the actual spring inside the gearbox for centering it is exceptionally strong, and when I sat in the car I had great problems getting it to move left and right. I mean, it does work obviously, so if we go over there and we go into, that's reverse. I can't go into first at the moment because the wheels need rotating, so that would be first back there. Then we go second, third, and across the gate, fourth and fifth. Fifth, there we go. But it's really, really strong on the gate. So, had a look at the gearbox and managed to locate where the actual self-centering spring is, which I'll now take you to and show you the modification I've done. Right, this gold cap at the rear of the gearbox on the final drive transaxle is where the springs are contained that handle the left and right gate. So undo 3 screws, prise it off because it's got some silicone on it, and inside we find a spring. It's quite clever the way this works. When you go in one direction with the gear stick, I'll see if I can do it, I probably can, there we are. It compresses that spring, and then this part here locates into a shoulder, as you can see in the cover. I don't know if you can see that, there we go. You can see a shoulder in the cover. That rests on that point there, such that when the gear stick then goes the other way, this slides out, but because there's a shoulder on there holding that, it compresses the spring. So that's your 2 operations. So we've got that way, and then when he comes this way, it compresses the end there. So that's the problem I have to overcome. A simple way obviously would be to put for a thinner spring. So that's one alternative. The other alternative is I did discover that when it's out, that's when it's asking for 4th and 5th. So that would be 3rd and 2nd, 4th and 5th. So if I allowed it to come out with no spring, then that would give me 2, 3, 4 and 5 quite easy, and I'd only have to compress it to go for reverse and first. So I have to allow it to come out. So I've machined up a new cover, which is this one here, and this one's got no recess in there whatsoever. So when this one goes on, it will allow it to come all the way out. So I'll just bolt that on and show you the results. Right, so that's the new cover, all bolted up firmly with some silicone on the face. So we'll see what the results look like. Right, slightly different position. So now we can see that we have a little bit of play there, which is fine because that's between 2 and 3 and that's 4 and 5. So we go across the gate, so across with the spring, and that will give me reverse. Again, I can't pull, if I go there, I can't come back into first because the gearbox needs turning a bit. That would be first, then we go 2nd, 3rd, and it comes over nice and easy for 4th and 5th. So 5, you go down to 4, come across, 3, 2, and then backwards and back that way for first. And I think that's a much better setup for myself. So that's the gear stick and gear shaft assembly to the back of the gearbox all sorted. The actual position I put it laterally lines up roughly with where the steering wheel is. I've sat in it and that gives me quite a nice position. It feels comfortable. Thanks for watching.